Welcome to Self-Discovery Radio, but the discovery of self is but a show away. With over 1,800 shows and growing, we bring you those liberating stories that help you on your own life's journey from every single topic you can think of. The only common denominator is authenticity and living in your meaningful purpose. Come and read our new ebook, plus see our discovery store and what wonderful tools we have for you. Do enjoy our shows and don't forget to share.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my repeat guest, a regular here on Self-Discovery Radio, is Christina Hill, and along with her, Angel Afella. I came across this wonderful prophecy told by Benthia Duno. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He wrote this 72 years ago, and it was quite astounding to the things that he saw was going to change in the consciousness of mankind and where we were going to be and the turmoil that we were going to see before we found that period of peace and respect and love. I've been saying it all along that, we're in transition and we're crossing over into that consciousness, we're awakening, and it is a very beautiful place to be. And we have the choice to embrace that or to stay in the 3D dimension of hate, discord, unrest. And when you've stepped into peace, believe me, peace is so much better. And it's just a question of how. How do you let things go? So I know that Athela, Christina's beautiful angel that comes along, she's going to come and speak with us later on her perspective of this philosophy and things that we can do to prepare for it. And Christina and I are going to be talking about this particular article and our own perceptions of what we see the changes are. I have got here on the posting the philosophy of Global Awakening with Christina and Athela. I do invite you to come read the article. It's too long to read here right now, but we will be referring to it through the show. So without any further ado, let's bring on Christina, and she's doing great sacrifice right now because she's in a sweat pit at 100 degrees. I need to close all the windows for me to hear the audio today before she melts away. Let's get her on the air.
What a great way to begin, Sarah, with laughter. I just have to say, let's take a moment, all of us together, and we can just bring that joy and that smile to our lips. And as the lips they come together, and then you have this brilliant smile happening. We have laughter, and just think of it, if we were to bring more laughter into our everyday, even when you're washing dishes, even as you're walking across a room, you're just thinking of those lips, they're opening up, you're smiling. It really sends cues to the universe. It really does open up so many delights and so many magical opportunities just within laughter and smiling. So thank you for that, Sarah. That's a beautiful way to begin.
Well, it lights us all up, doesn't it? And we have, as a species, kind of taken ourselves a little too seriously, and I think we've kind of forgotten this beautiful word joy. And, joy comes in the simplicity of laughter and those smiles, watching puppy dogs and kids play and enjoying the simple things in life that are out there, those moments that just bring a smile to your face and lift up your heart. And I think if we're more willing to see that and embrace that, we would feel lighter.
Oh, there is that word again, the lighter, the lightness.
Yeah.
What I love, Sarah, about the entire meaning that is, it's really pointing at what you are saying here on these shows, and the titles even of the shows, Choose Positive Living, is that there's a lightness. Mm-hmm. So the best way to gauge, I think, about how we're doing, how everyone is doing today and in this moment, is to really see and just to stop and kind of check in. How do I feel? Do I feel heavy today? Do I feel kind of somber and serious, and that heaviness, is that kind of a shadow over me now, or am I feeling really light? Is it easy to smile? Do I find all these different opportunities for smiling and laughter and that word joy? Is it coming up? Is it manifesting again and again throughout my day? That's a really good compass, I think, to have kind of set on the inside and to check in. And this show, certainly all of your shows, Sarah, I have to commend you. I believe that this is the beginning and the opening of enlightened society. I believe that we are hearing these words, and you come into this space and you can find joy, you can reignite the laughter, you can be in tune with this giant light that's around us all the time. So thank you for having me on the show, Sarah. It's a blessing. It's really a blessing for me. I'm so grateful to everyone who's here, who's joining us, who's listening.
Well, there's a reason why you're a regular, you're a ray of light of your own. But, getting back to that moment where, sometimes you wake up and you feel heavy and you go, why? Maybe you had a disturbing dream, you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe it's just the day you're facing. I would say go and find something to do that's going to reset you. And, very often for me, I'm on the social media, I'm doing all my admin and emails and things like this, but I'll find something that will cause a giggle or a fun. And today there was this great guy doing parody songs, and he was kind of doing geriatric songs of what the Who and everybody else would be singing now, and you can't help but smile and laugh. So sometimes we have to forcibly redirect ourselves into something that's going to give us a giggle and shift us out of whatever doom and gloom we were feeling.
That's absolutely the ticket. When we create a habit out of doing that, don't you find, Sarah, that it becomes kind of weird then to find yourself in a dark space for a very long time? Yeah. That actually becomes weird and foreign to us because we're so used to, let's shift. Having these instant shifters, I like to call them, and for some it may be visual. I love the example you use of puppy dogs, butterflies. Mm-hmm. These things that are very quick, and gosh, we have the internet that we use, and we have so many different beautiful things in our, technology in our world that we can just instantly pull up and look at and take a look at, and then it raises us up. And for no reason, you don't need a reason either. You don't need a reason to smile, laugh, to find joy, and it could be absolutely absurd. And some people would say, I think goofy is a good way to put it, just goofy. But for heaven's sakes, for whatever reason, if you need it, for whatever reason, then shifting immediately. I find that is the key there, is to really find these somber moments where darkness may have crept in, and to instantly move into a different vibration. The quicker you can do that and sustain that, then I think that is the better route, and there's no need for you to feel bad. We don't have to linger in the bad or the darkness. Not at all. No matter what is happening externally, by the way, we can shift ourselves, and we have choice. So choose positive living. I just love that. That is a mantra.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'll admit, sometimes it's hard. I've been open the fact that I do suffer from depression, and when it comes along, it raises its ugly head. But the interesting thing is, and this is a show I have to do with you, with Daniela Caldwell on Galactic Speak. And she speaks in ancient languages, and it bypasses the head, and it goes in and resets the DNA, speaks to the heart and the soul. But while listening to it, I realize that whenever I get into a depression or sad, I need to listen to music. And I'll flood myself with music, but then listening to the Galactic Speak, I realized how rhythmical it was, how the frequency and the energy of the music, and I realized that is the reason why I go to music so much. It's not that just music is soothing or uplifting, it's clearly the songs I'm picking at the time are of frequency that are feeding the subconscious that I can't reason with. So a very interesting aspect. We do have to actually look what does feed us and help us get out of that slump, because I think half the time people just don't know how.
Right. And recognizing your trigger points, recognizing when, very much like if we think of it as roller coaster, because I understand depression, anxiety, some of these states, these very hardened, heavy states, they come in these waves, the sort of like roller coaster mechanism going on. So if we can kind of catch the trigger moment right as we're coming up, right at the tippy top before we start to see ourselves head down, then if we can really create direct intervention of ourselves at that point, that is the best of all. Then we have really set ourselves up for success, and to avoid that completely. You have completely derailed yourself from going down that path. You have chosen to seek out that music, and of course it resonates with you, and it creates joy. And this is, this is us talking about it, but actually doing it,
yes,
it feels really good. And I'm sure by now you have found what really zings for you, what really feels good, musically especially. I'd like to invite people to experiment with all different sorts of sounds of the universe. Mm-hmm. I'm an acutonics practitioner, for example, and I hear through tuning forks a sound that is unlike anything I could ever describe. There's no overthinking, there's no words for it, but it's a sound that just...
Yeah.
I mean, it really takes you somewhere else, and that you may find it in the sound of dolphins, which are the teachers, and these creatures create sounds that will take humans to other dimensions. Or it could be, it could be Celine Dion, it could be, it could be Katy Perry. It really is about finding and sourcing these opportunities, and then giving yourself in the moment, truly, when you need it the most, having these things at the ready. So a good self-care plan, since we're on this topic, I think is just to have these things ready. Yeah. A surgeon does not go into surgery without having these tools at the ready, exactly when he needs them, ready to go, and everything else in between. So have these things at the ready, whether it's on your iPad or on your phone. You have these things set so that when you see a moment of darkness, you can instantly take it up. And that's the best way, I think, to create these positive living habits.
Yes, exactly. You've got to know yourself, and that means you've got to spend some time in discovery. And you're not band-aiding it with drugs or band-aiding it with alcohol or anything else, but really taking the time of what feeds you. Be exploratory. I mean, that's one of the reasons I put out all of these shows on Self-Discovery Radio, is because all of these tools out here, there is something there, or 2 or 3 of them, that go, yes, that speaks to me. And maybe it speaks to you on a mind level, maybe a heart level, maybe a soul level, maybe a DNA level. But that's the whole point, is you need to explore what options are out there. And in a sense, that's very, very much kind of the philosophy that the Basina has started here, is that we are in this beautiful transition right now, this wonderful awakening, but it's asking us to look at life in a different way. It's asking us to ignite ourselves from our heart, our spirit, and our soul, rather than being stuck in our mind, stuck in our fear. And it's asking us to understand that, rather like the Celtic rune Hadglass, you need to go through disruption before you can go through clarity, because the cleanse has to happen before you can get to, the purity of life. And I'm fascinated that he wrote this back 72 years ago, and it really is, really interesting, his whole perspective on it, which really got me stoked. But we're part of that transition, aren't we? We're part of the people that are helping people who are awakening, saying you're not alone. We've got the tools for you. It's safe to come into the waters, spread your wings, and come and join the love.
Yes. And it's okay no matter where you've come from, no matter what walk. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter, does it? I mean, leaving past behind and then coming into an awakened state, you find here that there is a whole world that is available to you. And there are many, many awakened beings who are at the ready to support and sustain the global planetary vibration, really. And we're doing it. We are doing it. It's already happening. I love, though, in these writings, and of course we can call them prophecies because I believe that they are, prophesizing something that is already occurring, that which we are already experiencing. I believe that Othello wants to touch on this a bit. There's been a lot of fear in these shifting movements. I think there's been a lot of fear and trepidation over what could be or what changes will come, this kind of cleansing, purifying that's happening, and what we can expect. and also how to help ourselves and what tools we can use in embracing our new selves and advancing really into a higher dimension, because it's happening anyway. So to clear the air there, I think it is important to touch on this just a bit, is just to kind of acknowledge where we have come from and acknowledge that that is all past, and if you're coming from a place of you have used drugs, alcohol, or any kind of addictive pattern to free yourself in the moment, that we can really, what is needed, I think, in the beginning is just to have absolute compassion for ourselves, forgiveness of ourselves, and love. From this perspective, we can begin, because we must really, this is radical acceptance. We must really radically accept ourselves as we are at this point. And it's very important for people who are listening to this to know that through the cleansing and the purifying and moving into a new dimension, that it's okay. It's better than okay. It's great, in fact, that if you have suffered to get to this point, if it's just been a horrendous road for you, or if you've suffered from addiction, loss, grief, really all of this is part of the lessons that you will take, and all of it's being healed and purified at this point. We're all in this together, we're all advancing. And it's a come as you are type of deal. It's really like that. Yeah.
And he makes this comment, which I rather like. Your present life is a slavery, a heavy prison. Understand your situation and liberate yourself from it. I tell you this, exit from your prison. It is really, I'm really sorry to see so much misleading, so much suffering, so much incapacity to understand where one's true happiness lies. And I think this is something that's really important, is that we know that the direction that we've been in, the dictatorship that has been there of how we should live our lives, we can see in evidence is not working. But when we actually understand it's not working, we've just empowered ourselves and given ourselves permission to seek out what does work. But again, no downloadable app. We've got to be willing to take the journey and willing to do the exploration of it. But it's not a heavy thing. It doesn't have to be hard or difficult. You've just come through the difficultness. Now it's stepping into the easy and lightening up, right? And it could be something as silly as making yourself laugh and finding humor for everything that you do, whatever makes you shift, right?
Right, that's right. There are no rules about this, and I really fully appreciate this particular phrase. Your present life is a slavery, a heavy prison. I really, again, I think it's important to touch on this just a bit, because we have to experience the dark in order to know light. Exactly. And vice versa, right? So this heavy prison, what is that? I mean, what does that really look like for you? And I mean by the audience listening here, because I'll tell you, one prison I've lived in for all my life is just the thoughts, the torment of the thinking in the head, the inability to stop thinking in these patterns and these grooves that we've created in the brain, the neural pathways. Okay, so habitual negative thinking is one of the greatest prisons of all. I mean, it will lock you down. And I believe here in the next sentence, it says, understand your situation and liberate yourself from it. I tell you this, exit from your prison. Folks, there is absolutely a liberation from the thinking in the brain to the suffering that ensues, because we think the thought, it creates the feeling, and then we are in the vibration of that, and it creates our actions. So if we tell ourselves again and again, there is liberation from this, you will find that this is the easy part. You've stepped into the light just by requesting and saying, I intend to create for myself mental freedom, the liberation of the mind, and just a purifying, a cleansing, which I believe also the prophecy here that we're looking at, we're diving into this, also, foretells that we will be cleansing it, the earth purifying, and all of the collective consciousness being cleansed. This is a collective movement, and in it, I believe that the liberation of the thinking patterns and the heavy prison of the mind is really what we're talking about here. It starts with that, with the self.
Well, it starts with the mind, doesn't it? Because the spirit and the heart and the soul are shouting at us, going, hey, just come and join me, I'll show you the way. But the mind gets in the way, either through old patterning, old programming, believing that we are imprisoned when really there's no key, there's no lock. All you have to do is push the door open and free yourself. It requires us to have the willingness to see things from a different perspective, and to understand that what does not serve us must be let go. And also, I think, is we overcomplicate things because we're in the mind all the time. We over-intellectualize it. And really, in so many ways, it's so much more simple, isn't it? If we just allow and follow and pay attention to what is leading us.
Beautiful, really beautiful. Just letting that float through the air. What you've just said, Sarah, is, I mean, if we can pause, even for a fraction of a second, and pause and just breathe, that is light, and that is the difference between imprisonment and freedom.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering about these terms, these big terms, we're talking about being imprisoned with the mind and the shifting and the fire that's coming to create newness. All of these terms, yes, these are concepts. We're talking about information. We're breezing it through our brains and out it comes through the mouth. But really, it is quite simple. I believe that we do tend to need explanations.
Yeah.
We need to
But
figure
why?
things out
But
with the brain.
But why? We get caught on that groove. And, in the universe it is. It just is. And we have to learn to trust that, don't we?
Right. Yes. Yes. And without having to say anything, without having to explain or look to the why.
Yeah.
A great example here is, I refer to Eckhart Tolle quite a bit because his form of channeling being different than my own, but it is a form of channeling. And in fact, Sarah, what you and I do is channeling as well. My connection with Athela is a first-person type of channeling. It's an ancient art. It's something that everyone can learn to do. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What I'm saying here, though, with Eckhart is that one example he gives is to go out into nature and to find a blade of grass, a leaf, a bird, and let your awareness rest upon it. Mm-hmm. And instead of trying to decide what's happening, or instead of trying to interpret what you see, just look. Don't try to figure out or think about, this is a beautiful bird. Because before the thoughts, there is an awesome intelligence, there is an awesome consciousness within each of us that is illumination, but it comes before the thoughts. So this practice of just looking, and it could be anything, it could be a pillow, it could be your foot, but going outside in nature is more helpful, I think, because it takes us outside of our mind, our thinking mind, even more so than if we were looking at something concrete on the inside of a building. But anyway, go outside and look at something and just look at it and be with it. And even if it's a second of doing that, that's the kind of freedom, that's the kind of peace that we're talking about here. And that is a liberation. You have begun to liberate yourself by doing that. Right. So that's a practice that I found to be, I practice it in my own living, my own daily living, my own meditations, and boy, is that freeing, and it feels so joyful to do that.
You find what it is for you. Like I'm living near the mountains, very beautiful. Mountains are wonderful, but when I go near the ocean, I am a different person. The sea air, the wind, the way it changes, and when I actually immerse myself into those waters, I'm home. Those waters just completely wash away anything, and the beautiful conduit vibration of energy that comes into me fortifies me. We have to find out what it is that is a that allows us to breathe, to feel loved and nurtured, to feel connected. And we have to explore what that is. For some people, it might be getting out on a bike ride or going for a hike or climbing a mountain. Whatever it is, that is where your peace and your connection is. But don't deny yourself of it. Do as much as you can of it.
Precisely. And this could be an everyday practice, and it can start today.
Yeah.
There's no rules. You can start right now. Some people, I think, need the permission slip. We all do that, where we need to give ourselves permission to quit what we're doing, or to step away, or I'm not on vacation yet, I will be in 2 months, or I need to lose weight in order to do this, or I need to get permission from... You don't need any of that. You can simply begin, and life is here for you now. Life is now. Now. We're at now.
Yep, the gift of the present is in the now. Absolutely. I want to read another chapter, another little bit that he wrote here, because I think it's very, very apropos to where the world is right now. He says, everything that is around you will soon collapse and disappear. Again, referring kind of to that Hadgas disruption, cleansing. Nothing will be left of this civilization, nor its perversity. The entire earth will be shaken, with no trace will be left of this erroneous culture that maintains men under the yoke of ignorance. Earthquakes are not only a mechanical phenomenon, their goal is also to awaken the intellect and the heart of humans so that they liberate themselves from their errors and their follies, and that they can understand that they are not the only ones in the universe. I've often said, Mama's a bit pissed off with what humanity is doing, and she's letting us know. And, Father, who's been kind of a little absent, is now coming back to the fold and realizing need to guide. But the earth, what we're doing to it, but also what it's trying to tell us is that the answers are always around us, and every way. We really have got to, as I say, get out of our heads, our ego or our insecurity, and start stepping into that beautiful knowledge that the earth is trying to tell us.
Again, when we hear truth, and this is truth, then we breathe it in, and we breathe it into our bodies. I just know that just by hearing this, and this being truisms, that we're taking it into our bodies, it's becoming us, it's changing our world, it changes the world of everyone we touch, our animals, the earth around us, our conscious sphere changes.
Yes.
Because we're really illuminating stuff that has been waiting for us, and we're really coming up to it, and we're finally rising up, really, allowing ourselves to rise up to this. Mother Earth is here for us. Yes, I think shaking, trembling, the anger energy there, just to let herself be known, is absolutely, it's what's being highlighted in this paragraph. I feel that is absolutely the case, and we're seeing it already. These prophecies here are well underway. So when someone listens to the show and says, well, when is this going to happen? I'd like to know a day, or, well, gosh, we're already here.
Look at the floods, look at the earthquakes, look at the famine, look at the weather changes. This is everything trying to wake us out of our complacency and invite us to do something about it.
And to answer to that, I can hear human minds thinking, what do I do? What can I do? It's already too late. What can be done? It's hopeless. That is a thought energy pattern that creates more darkness.
Yes.
So steer your mind in that moment and take your mind off of those, take your mind body vibration away from those thoughts, and do as we said just at the beginning of the show. find yourself in a way, find a picture, get a beautiful picture of the earth, and every time those thoughts come up, look at the earth, look at the awesomeness of the waves, look at the awesomeness of the sky, the sun, take in these beautiful images. Start to really see Mother Earth coming together, healing. Put these thoughts in your mind and really feel them. That's your part. That is what we can do right now. And there's other things too. There's external things, of course. Those will come as your consciousness evolves, as we all evolve. But that's something immediate. That's something that is tangible and real. And if you're listening to this show, you know that anytime you put your focused attention, energy, awareness on something, you are stirring that energy, you are creating it, for good or for ill.
Yeah.
So let us choose the most beautiful thoughts and heal Mother Earth and be a participant in this active, it's like volcanic explosion. It's so let us participate in it and be fully awake for it. And I think Othella, in just a few moments, will have words to share about cleansing ourselves, getting ourselves prepared, and being fully present to what already is around us, and how we can be beacons of light amongst such contrast. Because we're seeing darkness as it's rising up, the body of Earth cleansing itself. And what do we do? How do we navigate through this and clean ourselves out from within, so that we are ready for this shift, so that we are open to it? I think
so. We're a part of it. So we're a part of the shift, right? The shift is already happening. What we're doing is inviting people to be a part of it. And it comes down to, what are you going to feed? Are you going to feed all the discord that's happening around there? You know that it's a spiral that's just going to spiral down. Or are you going to feed the solution? And the solution is stepping in to, first and foremost, participation of your own life and choosing positive living and embracing all the beauty that is around us, so that you can be a part of it and be a part of the solution.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. There is really two choices at this point. We can step in, raise up our hands, we can go with this flow and be in it, participate fully, and grow. Really, this is for growth. This is for our evolution. Or we can fall back, and I want to highlight something in here that I think is quite true, and that we sense. Gosh, I have a choice to make. We sense it, because in this article it really makes good light of, and I hope everyone will take the time to read this. It makes good light of what we're headed into and what will be before us. And it says here that after these sufferings, those that will be saved, the elite, will know the golden age, harmony, unlimited beauty. And so, but if we fall back, if the choice is for us to stay as we are, which of course we know that is completely false, nothing stays as it is, but if we choose to fall back and into disintegration, really, we can see here there is something that points to us not being able to function anymore in this world. That there is a choice that must be made in each individual. Otherwise, we will find it unbearable. We will find that we simply can't continue until we evolve. We're seeing it all around us, really.
Yeah, we feel it. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you see all of these things and what people are doing to each other, we feel it, and it's like, no, this is not the answer. This is not the answer. We are here as a human race. We are here as a living race. All our animals, all our plants, everything is a vibration. It's an energy. It's a life force. And we need to look to all of these life force as a part of this collective on this beautiful gift of this earth and come together. And that is what the invitation is come together. Bring your beautiful instrument to the orchestra and start playing in harmony.
Yeah. Yes. And just to make it more concrete for people who are wondering, well, how do I do that? I think these shows are tremendous steps towards what you can do for yourself, because it always begins with the self, and then working your way out, of course, and finding your divine path, your divine purpose, and your habitual way of living. Take the first step and just re-listen to these shows. Really come into a peaceful place, a quiet space for yourself every day, and begin to meditate. You can hear these words. You can look through many, many books, both new and old, and you can find this illuminating information. But really, it just starts with a willingness. It just starts with that choice of, you know what, I want to choose to live in a different way. I want to evolve myself. And the earth is very forgiving. This whole process is so forgiving.
So is the universe, right? Because the universe doesn't live in hate or discord; it lives in love and peace. And so, but another thing you were talking about, people listening to these shows, the people who are listening to a show like this are already people that are participating. They're already people on the journey, because this is advanced teachings that we're teaching people here. And you've already awoken. You already know that you're seeking something better. You already know that you want to be a part of the solution. And now you're seeking the how, and that's what these shows do. The reason why to, the how to, and that it's safe to. And it comes down to, here is the water. All we can do is make it glistening and show you that we drink from that water as well. But you have to drink from the water when you're ready and over your own free will. And this is the one thing that humans have over anything else, is that free will. And we need to step into that free will, because we have been prisoners for so long in stepping into other people's point of view of will, and not our own free will, our own choice, our own decision making. And it's very important to do so. And shows like this, and especially when we listen to Othello and the message that she's going to be doing, is guiding you, navigating you along that path to those waters, in trust, in faith, in love, and in safety.
Safety. Now there is a word. Yeah. And as a prelude, Sarah, I would love to open it up to my guide, Othello, who is an ascended being. She's an ascended master. She guides people, she heals people, not just from physical things, from physical ailments, from old patterns, healing in relationships, healing in career, and healing of themselves. But she's always ever present. So I want to make it very clear to people who listen to this that Othello, among many masters, never comes and goes. There is no such thing, she says, as coming and going. There is always safety to enter into this sacred space and to hear from our guidance and to be led, and to feel the healing that's here. It's all around us. And it's here for every single human who is open, no matter what, irregardless of your past. So I invite everyone to just sit back, relax, and open yourselves up to the energy that is. As you say, Sarah, it simply is. Mm-hmm. Yes. And without further ado, then I would like to connect with Othello. Sarah, if you're ready, we can take a few moments and just join with her energy, which is always, it's like watching butterflies take off. For me, it's just beautiful. Dear humans, within one breath, you are creating constitution for free energy. All that it takes is one mindful breath. Let us review once again what the breath does. It is a miracle. You breathe in, oxygen going to heart, doing its work, and as you exhale, the circulation to all parts, sustaining you. This is done without any effort on your part.
Breath, life, is here for the taking, for you to breathe in. Therefore, during this time of upheaval and change, if you are finding it difficult to remain upright and stabilized, come, be with free energy, the breath. Maybe you say, yes, I have sat in breath. Yes, I have passed much time breathing mindfully. So what is next? This is the brain thinking. I would like to tempt you to leave it be. Leave those thoughts. Allow them to drift. Come back to breath. Soft systems breathing is a doorway to the new dimension. And since we are in discussion talking about what the world will feel like for humans in this new realm, I will say the breath will be changed. Humans, they will learn deeper, more profound, soft systems of breathing. The breath will create alignment. The breath will lead you through the day. You will not instantly leap out of bed and push through your day. Instead, you will find breath. You will breathe, and you will feel aligned. The deep rooting foundation of you aligned with breath. And this strong foothold in breath will carry you. You will find you are moving through life, and when external contrast appears, you return to breath, oscillating between practical matters and breath, deepening the breath. In the civilization Atlantis, they were capable of breathing in water, expelling water, and alchemy of water. There was an understanding of the cells of the body, and breath was used in healing. Even in communication, there would be a breath, a pause between communications. Why do you not breathe, humans? Why are you in a hurry? The gadgets and electronics of this world have created hurry, rush, fear. Step away from these things every day. Come back to breath. The heartbeat is slowed. You are regulated by breath. And in our new kingdom, our new realm, there is peace, peace with every breath. And we share this with your brothers and sisters, for you attune yourself, and then you find others who sit next to you attune themselves as well. It may take some time for you to acclimate to this new vibration, stabilizing yourself within breath, I encourage you then to limit your time with what the eyes see, with news, media, TV, pictures, images of violence. If you can avoid these, it is a sensitive time. You are in a delicate state, my dear humans. I am not suggesting that you isolate yourself from current events or from others, just that you permit yourself to be stabilized and aligned with breath, and that you acknowledge your time with electronics, your time with these images is limited, if at all. And you encourage your brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers to do the same. When the earth trembles, bow to her and say, I love you, thank you, Mother Earth, for reminding me that I am a part of you. Ask Mother Earth to accept you once again and to draw you in to all of her beauty. Find where you feel best. Feet in the sand, wind blowing through the hair, a hand touching a leaf, or your hands on the sides of a mountain. Or you are swimming in one of her great open-bodied oceans. Be with her more. Be. Leave the thinking. When you are with Mother Earth, you can leave the thinking behind. If you listen closely, you will hear the humming sound of Earth humming to you, guiding you. And of course, dear humans, Sun. The sun is not swayed, the sun does not leave you. Sun is always here for you. Even sun changes. So come out, children, to play in sun. 5 or 10 minutes of human clock time in sun. If you have fears or troubles, worries of mind, offer them up to Sun. Sun is fierce, burning strong. Sun can heal and dissolve shadow, darkness, and fear. I realize, humans, you have been rushed and in a hurry for quite some time. You feel your phone is very important to you. I understand. Put it down. Who you are, the essence of you, that comes from Earth. She is here for you, as am I. This is energy of love. These are words permeated with love. Love is all that's real. As you hear these words, take it in like a song. And you are never alone. This is impossible. You are fed and nurtured. Universe, source, what you call God, you are fed continuously. Now I have given you a short prescription for preparation for changes and the difficulties that you see on the external plane. Breathe into the vortex, my dear ones. The breath is the connector. Thank you, Athela.
Thank you, Athela. Something that Athela said triggered something for me. And I think it is that we are such reactionary people. And we rise up to meet aggravation or injustice. And yes, we should not turn our backs on victimization. But the beautiful expression of take a breath. And in that deep breath, all that you need to do to address that moment will be. And that we cannot meet conflict with conflict. We have to meet it with stability in our breath, coming from that place of love. And we can address something that is wrong from that place without that damnation, without that anger. And I think that might be the greatest challenge that humans are facing right now. How to fight injustice without falling and becoming a part of the anger. How to rise up with that energy and send out that love. Even the loving intolerance. And teach people to take a breath before they react. I mean, that is a huge invitation for human beings at the moment.
And I am an honored witness to this process. I think every human can be an honored witness, and we bear this, now it's responsibility, I'll call it, where we can breathe in and we can really take all this knowledge that we've been gifted, all the knowledge and tools now in our conscious path, and we can breathe and project in a new way. We can respond in a light-filled way rather than going into the fear, reactivity, darkness, hatred mode, which is, I tend to look at things in spectrum of colors. So if you want to see it that way, as you're taking in these breaths in these very challenging moments, to be as present as possible, and then to, really project out a color of white light, of white, bright. And that, I had someone ask me in an interview recently, I was on live TV actually, and they were asking me about suffering and how is that really going to change anything when you're projecting this light? And I think everyone who hears this message understands there is no way to explain this with words, but we do see that this is the powerful version.
We don't have the vocabulary for it. It's just do it and feel it. When you feel it, you'll understand it, and there won't be the needs for words, because it's knowingness, isn't it?
Oh, yes, precisely. It's the knowingness. And then go out in the world and see how that works.
Yeah.
Be the observer for a while and notice how in your world there is more peace, more joy, more light when you live this way. And I can certainly attest to, having spent most of my lifetime living in darkness, I can attest to the difference, the great, tremendous difference that those two realities create what you're creating at that point with the breath and with the projecting light outwards is something, it's celestial. It's a celestial way of living. Yes.
I'm reminded of martial arts. And when you look at the art of martial arts, Kung Fu and Tai Chi and Qigong and all of that stuff, it's not about how to fight and hurt someone. It's how to block someone from hurting you. It's all about, combating without fighting back. And we're humanity that when we're in pain, we go and attack others. It's somebody else's fault, this, that, blame, whatever, bum, bum, bum. And we all need to kind of be a little kind of Kung Fu people where we kind of fight that back off and just wish people love, wish people light, wish people well. Take that breath like that master and send out that loving energy. And part of them gets extremely confused of why you're not fighting back. But then all of a sudden there's an overwhelming feeling that they can't explain that comes over them, where they don't want to fight back.
This really is the moment. If you encounter this in everyday life, and it could be with a colleague at work, it could be with your spouse or with your child, but if you encounter that moment where this other person is on the receiving end of your light, your choice to breathe and to not react, that reactivity wheel has been stopped, and you are simply in light, you're in presence. If you're on the receiving end of this, I think you are wholly blessed, because you will experience something that is awesome, the awesomeness of universe. And that person, by the way, cannot be in your presence. I mean, this is by law, by the way. That person cannot carry on in this egoic state in your presence. It won't happen. That person will either choose to redirect that energy somewhere else. It will simply dissolve in the moment, or some other circumstance will come up where you will find that light triumphs. I promise you, and you know this, light absolutely triumphs all. It trumps everything. I just love that when that happens too. So it's a good practice to start with small things first in those situations, and then you'll find life will present to you opportunities for you to practice this on the higher level with big stuff. And that's where that mastery, I love that martial arts example. Dig in there, dig deep, and find your martial arts master within, if you need to, but in that moment, so that you're really super grounded in breath, and that you can project the light, and that just carries on. The ripples just carry out.
Precisely.
You feel really good about your choice too. So you've transmuted that energy. That's transmutation of energy.
Yeah, he makes a little statement in his article here. The Earth is following an ascending movement, and everyone should force themselves to harmonize with the currents of the ascension. Those who refuse to, subjugate themselves to this orientation will lose the advantage of good conditions that are offered in the future to elevate themselves. They will remain behind in evolution and must wait 10 millions of years for the coming of the new ascending wave. And I've often referred to that as the third dimension, the fourth dimensional bridge that people are on the awakening, the fifth and sixth, where we're realizing goes much up higher. But that ascension is in your breath, in how you choose to react. It is your vibration that you wish to live in, and it's an invitation for people to rise up into that loving vibration, and not for you to descend into their anger.
So true. And by the way, even the smallest things, even driving in traffic, and where we find that rage coming up, the smallest opportunities for you to, as it says here, following that ascending movement, following the ascension, when these opportunities come up, and to really make those conscious choices to transmute this energy on the spot, and to get really, really intentional about living in light. People talk a lot about this, but are we really doing it? So practice with the small things, whether you're in traffic or dealing with someone who may be difficult. It's just amazing what happens after even a few days of this practice. With really what you're putting out, because you're cleansing yourself, you're cleansing the planet. And I also think it is important to remind ourselves that we are in this transition. We are in this transition no matter what. So since we have the choice, we should definitely be choosing, I think, to raise ourselves up rather than get into these unfavorable conditions, which they're talking about here. This is pointed out very well. Unfavorable conditions to elevate yourself, and that will have to wait several millions of years.
Yes. Hey, get on the bandwagon now. It's a long time before the train comes by again.
That's right, and that's right. And don't you find too? We're seeing it in the stars. I mean, we're having this eclipse coming up on Monday. So there are very swift changes that are happening. They're coming up very soon, and we do want to be on the boat. We do want to be in that flow. You know, universe is open arms. It's all open arms from here, and it does get lighter as you cross that bridge. Feeling lighter, life is flowing well. I mean, it's designed this way. So if life has been heavy and has been just cruel and hard to you and a lot of hardship there, you can let go of that story. You can let go of it completely. Take that vest off and embrace light. And you can do it with the small things and just this practice of anchoring with breath.
You have to start with the small things. You know, stop looking for the big grandioso. It's not that way. It's about being present in the moment, in open consciousness, in interaction, in participation, not abstaining or handing it over to someone else, in ownership and responsibility. And, you know, it's how do you want to be treated is how you treat others. That resonance and that energy will grow and expand from there. So if you treat people badly, expect to be treated back. If you treat people with love, love will rise. You know, my favorite song right now of this year is Rise Up by Andrea Day. And it's not a rise up in arms, it's about rising up that beautiful energy and love and harmony and embracement of each other. And it's all possible. I talk to people who, you know, constant naysayers. Yeah, but if this is happening, why are we seeing so much destruction, so much flood, so much this and that? Because we do have to clean out the old consciousness in order to have a clean slate for the whole. I've had people speak to me about heaven. I just want to die and go to heaven. And I say, but you have to then go to soul school because heaven doesn't want you in there, so to speak, with all your anger and your discord. It's a place of love, and you can only enter it if you are a soul of love. So why wait? You know, why not step into love now? Yes, there's a lot to look at that you don't love. How about focusing on the things you do love and allowing that energy to grow and grow and grow? And you'll see how the pendulum will swing in that more loving way, and how you choose to look at beauty in life. Doesn't mean you don't see the ugliness. It just means that you know what to do about that in sending it that loving energy that you now live in.
So beautifully put, and what great sage words for someone who really, I think, wants to look at the why, you know, and wants the explanation, and really the conceptual. We want to conceptualize. We want to get it in our brains first. And okay, now that I understand that, now I can. It's another permission slip, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
Allow yourself. Yeah, just we can just allow ourselves to come into our own light, however we see that, and anchor ourselves there. And we really don't need to give energy to the disasters of the world. We can see that they're happening, you know, and I've had disasters in my own life, and people kind of look at me going, how did you even survive that?
Exactly.
But I don't put any thought energy into it. I did an interview, Sarah, not too long ago with a gentleman who, he's interviewed people around the world, and very much like you, except he travels to do face-to-face interviews. And he asked me, it was funny. He said, "You seem more like yourself these days, Christina." And he was commenting on one of the videos I had done, and he said, "So tell me your story, you know." And I actually had to stop him, and I said, "You know what? I really don't feel called to do that. I really don't think that's why I'm here in this moment. And I'd love to tell you a bit about the now, and tell you about where we're headed, and talk about, and bring Athela in, of course." And it's not because I don't want to negate the story, the life story, and I don't also want to negate what's happening in the world. But I do know that Athela, in my work with her, and she's written books, we've done seminars, we do retreats, she works with people, and one of her mottos, or one of her taglines really, is that we don't need to go into the destruction, the stories, all of that. Because really what we're focused on is healing. The reason why she came through me and to my life was to be a beacon of light. No matter what is happening on the planet, you can acknowledge, you can look at that material, or contrast, we could call it, and you can still, in your inner world, be anchored in light and share light. And it's important, I think, to get away from the story, per se, because the story, while we have the stories and we share the stories, those are important. But I think there's a fine line that we walk between sharing the stories, looking at what's happening and all of that, and the mind stuff, and then learning how to come into a higher space, a space of being, and really being connected, and letting go of these stories. Does that make sense?
Well, it's also, this is exactly what Self-Discovery Radio is about embracing somebody's adversity and how they use that adversity, that pain or that suffering, into finding their meaningful purpose and being of service to the world now. And, we will touch on the story, but we don't get stuck in the pain of the story. It's part of their journey that led them to doing what they do now. And everybody, including yourself, will say, I'm so grateful for the journey, because now in my meaningful purpose and my understanding of why I'm here, in the love and the glory of what I do, everything has led me to that. And we mustn't get stuck in the why me. It's like, this has happened to be a part of your story, to teach you maybe strength, maybe courage, maybe knowledge, maybe redirection. But it's all part of your toolkit into doing what you do now. And had you not gone through that, how would you actually understand what to do now? So we've got to look at those journeys as a gift, however painful they were, but they are a gift to putting us on what we're really here to do.
Truly, truly. And to all those, to answer to that comment that you had had, that feedback from someone about, why is this happening in the world? Mm-hmm. How could these atrocities be happening if all this light is amongst us and if we're moving into a higher dimension? That energy particularly can be very troublesome and hard for human minds. Yeah. Particularly when there's disaster. There's just disaster and atrocity at every turn. So with that material, again, there is the choice, and we can choose to see all of these things in love, through the lens of love, and that's not just fluffy words. It's really it's a choice, and it's an energy flow that you can step into, and you can do it immediately. And I think Athela points to this a lot. That's why we have guides too, mm-hmm. to help us as the world turns, as these things, these atrocities, they occur. It's very important to stay grounded, to have ourselves really sunken into our source, and to be anchored in that, so that we can breathe, we can take in those free type of breaths, those fresh breaths, and so that we can respond, and we step out of ego states that ask. Of course, ego is one of the favorites of ego is, why me? Why this? Why is this? I need an explanation as to this doesn't make sense, and all of that stuff is really ego stuff. So we're moving out of ego. We know this. We're moving into heart, and out of the head and into heart. I just think it's a beautiful time to be alive. I think I say this every time on your show, yes. Sarah. It's a beautiful time.
And it's a beautiful time to connect with people like you, who also, in such beautiful divine energy that is out there doing the work that you're doing. There's something I want to bring up here, is that I think one of the things, and you may agree with me or not, but when you're living in a state of life, you're no longer afraid of death. Because you understand that this is just a vessel that we're in, and our ascension goes on beyond this lifespan. this physical lifespan, and that energy that we live in will move on to whatever next level or next body it needs to be in. And I think when you know, sometimes when I look at suffering and people's suffering, I think that animal is better off dead than living the life of torture and let it have a chance at life again. And some people look at me and I go, no, death is nothing to be afraid of. We obviously are afraid of how we're going to die, or, you know, being taken before our time. But death itself is not anything to be afraid of, because we are so much more than this vessel.
As I know, spoken through your lips, I feel this channeled energy of truth, because I know that you've seen that, Sarah. I know I know a bit of your personal experiences, and from what Othello has shown me as well with one of your guides, about how you have interacted with those who are no longer in the physical. Mm-hmm. And it is a knowing that we go on, we continue. There is no end, there's no nothingness. And the fear, pain, suffering, I like to put those words together, that people liken to the death experience or the transition, it takes the knowing in order to shift from the fear state, the fears of death, and into this knowing of light, and just that this is the transition. So often I'll share with people my stories of childhood, but again, these are stories, and so the mind kind of, develops these things. It's mind energy, right? So we get these pictures, and that's fine. But I think that we should do a show, perhaps in the future, on what happens when we die and the death experience, and because there is a lot of fear about that. And with this great article that you have pointed to towards our time together here, this article that was written 72 years ago. There's a lot of it that could point people down that road of fear and destruction, death and destruction. And I just want to say that we are simply the ice cube that's melting into the water at that stage. Nice. Yeah, at that time, you are really slipping into a different form. That's it. How do I know this? Well, gosh, I have more than a handful of first-hand experiences of being with men, women, adults, children, animals, as they have passed from their physical body into non-physical, and it's a beautiful experience. It's a wonderment. We cannot possibly fathom it here in our heads. No, but I do think a show on it would be very enlightening, and I think it would help people in their time when they're in that moment to know. And there's a lot of things that can be done there to prepare us for those beautiful moments.
And also the actual passing of death, as one spirit that came back and said, don't cry at my bedside. Don't leave me. It's like I'm transcending. Send me love for my passage, right? Let me go with that love around you, because otherwise you can disrupt that energy of them leaving, because it's a beautiful transition that's happening.
I can speak personally, again, as a channeler, a conduit, one of the top hallmark reasons why a non-physical being will choose, to hang about or linger or feel uncomfortable with what has just occurred is because the humans surrounding them are having a difficult time, really difficult time. And so therefore there's grieving that's happening, and there's uncertainty, and where should I direct myself now, and is it okay to go, and all of this. And that's really, that could be avoided. We could have a whole different framework for the passage and the transition. I just believe that that's very important. We are in the life experience, we're in the human body, so we were born and we're going to transition out of the vehicle, and that could be a beautiful experience,
as I said,
and I've seen that.
Yeah, it is a beautiful transition. Again, if it's done with, when the time is right, because we're not talking about people who are taken before their time or and any nastiness, but it is a beautiful transition when people go willingly and don't fight it and understand it's just a transition. And I used to say that I kind of worked for death, because I would get these spirits coming to me, okay, now where do I go? Kind of caught in between, and I just have to show them that next level in trust and to go. But nobody was, I have been possessed with people who didn't want to give up, want my body, but for the people that do cross over, it is like, this is so peaceful. Do you remember the movie Defending Your Life with Meryl Streep?
Absolutely, I remember that movie.
And
yes.
If you remember, they had to kind of defend why they, should move over. Are they ready for it, and things like that. But it is, when you do give up and go over, and you understand, as I've spoken to many who's crossed over, I'm in peace here. I'm in love here. And the only reason I'll stick around is I'm worried about the people left on Earth who are not at peace with my crossing. But kind of defending your life, is I think defending your death, your passing.
Yes. Defending something that is so natural and pure. It's just like water. I mean, we are built in water. We're born of it.
Yes.
It's us, and then we change. And so we don't cry and weep when we see icicles melting. And I know that that's not the same, of course, but
right.
Here we are. We're made mostly of water, and so we have to look at ourselves as organic, because we are.
Yeah. And
light beings. So in the same way, I think that I agree with you completely, having had these firsthand experiences of confusion and just upset, just general upset coming from the other side of, gosh, I don't feel comfortable now. I feel peaceful. I don't feel comfortable leaving, though, fully. And this whole process is going to be prolonged a bit until I feel like I can leave my human or my right. group, my community. When that doesn't have to happen at all. So Athela, I'll just say quickly, Athela says often that we see animals such as animals on National Geographic, or even out in nature, we go out and we see the circle of life, and animals are consumed by another animal. And we will weep, we will mourn as humans when this happens. But truly, she says that it is the human that suffers. Human creates suffering, not the animal. The animal is built and designed to eject from the vessel, and pretty darn quick too.
Right.
And they even have these built-in abilities to not perceive pain at the very final moments. So, the human component is really where the suffering begins. And so we can learn, again, we're talking about how we're ascending, we can learn these techniques of grounding ourselves just by practicing in everyday living, through the breath, through our meditations, through connection with our higher self, our guides, through the universe, or what you identify with. Maybe it's nature, and perhaps you have a whole regimen that you do for yourself. But whatever that is, that you're connected daily to that. And then when fear arises, that you are responding, you're actually responding with the breath, you're aligned, and then you're giving out this light. And I think that there should be more material, more education on this notion of passing, this transition time. And a show on that, I think, would be very fruitful and helpful for people, because there is quite a bit of fear and fear energy around that topic. Yeah. There doesn't need to be at all. Yes.
Right, a statement
Natural.
Keeps coming into my head at the present moment is, be emotionally tuned in, but don't be emotional.
Oh,
and
love that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, when we become emotional, we become dramatic. And that builds, my old saying, the I call it the CNN effect, the pimple into the volcanic eruption. And sometimes we build a drama around something like a hysteria, maybe because we get attention or maybe it's a release. But when we're actually tuned into our emotions and really understand their needs at the moment, we can better serve those emotions. But when we step into being emotional, that's when we become irrational and lose control. So it is a fine line, isn't it?
It is a fine line. You're right about that. Checking in with oneself. These ego states, don't you find they're quite powerful? I think that the only antidote, if we could call it that, to those emotional states, I believe is presence and taking time out of our day to be with our source and really to get out of our heads and into our heart centers. That's really something. I say it again and again because I believe we need more and more of it, and we can't find that through our thinking head. We've got to get lower, sinking down into the chest, into this cavity area of heart
and soul
and heart centers. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, my old statement, listen to the soul, divine intellect as it resonates with the heart and truth that goes to the spirit in action, and then the mind knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And people have often asked me, because I talk myself as a cosmic being rather more than a human being, and they say, well, what is it like there? And I'm always saying, it is everything and nothing all at once. It is a complete void where you feel everything and nothing, and it is just so utterly beautiful. How do you explain that in words? How can you have somebody feel that? The only time they're going to ever feel that is if they ascend and feel it for themselves. So, he talks about the new era is that of the sixth race, and preparing yourself and welcoming it and living in it, and that it will build itself around the ideal of fraternity. And there'll be no more conflicts of personal interest. The single aspiration of each one will be to conform himself to the law of love. The sixth race will be that of love, a new continent that will be formed from it. It will emerge from the Pacific as the highest can finally establish itself this planet on the earth. And, it does sound cliche, doesn't it? But what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And we can't get enough of it.
We are truly the children now who have been for a long time, but we are especially now just dehydrated.
Yes.
And we're refueling and drinking in love. So find it at every turn.
And it comes from gratitude.
You cannot have enough of it.
No, start by being grateful. Being grateful for the flower that's in the garden. Be grateful for this and that. The small little things. As I say, please think small. Please think small. When you pay attention to all the little things around you, in awe, in gratitude, in wonderment, in investigation, in exploration, that's when you really start seeing the beauty and the wonderment and the magic of this planet and of us as human beings on it. And when we immerse ourselves into that, we start seeing how absolutely bloody awesome we really can be. And we start letting go of all those other things because they simply don't matter anymore.
Yes, that's right. It doesn't matter anymore, past or where you have come from.
Right.
It really doesn't. And that's so liberating and so wonderful to just say that we can put our attention, our energy, awareness on the little things and feel like children, because that's really what we are. We can feel like a kid every day. We can enter into these creative states, these beautiful gratitude states every day. No permission slip needed. Mm-hmm. No permission slip needed. You absolutely are worthy of feeling good every day and really enjoying and feeling grateful for everything that's around you. And what happens, as you know, Sarah, because I've seen it working through you, sort of blossoming through your being, is that when we focus more on what we are grateful for, of course, it multiplies. Suddenly life is just full, brimming full of more things to be grateful for. It's just, It's lovely how it happens.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And, things are going to come along. Like, as people know, I had a head wackaroo back in May, and it slowed me down. And it was basically saying, yeah, you're on the right track with what you want to do with the radio station, but not with the people you think you're going to do with it, or quite in the format you're going to do with it. And I had to have that kind of whack because I was rushing ahead instead of going with the flow. And, now the understanding of where that next phase and how to present it is coming along. And sometimes if we get out of our head and allow that knowingness to come in, you will feel the knowledge, you will see the knowledge, you will taste the knowledge, it will come clarified. And of course, then we want to know how to get into action with it. Well, once we understand why we're going that way and that it makes sense, the action will present itself. So we've just got to be willing to go through that process of understanding that ascension and that redirection and allowing ourselves to go along there without dictation.
Yes, yes. If you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, since
Yes.
we made reference to it, okay.
Love it.
So I love that movie, and I think a lot of people agree with us here that that movie is so representative
Yes.
of the way things really are. And if you follow that white rabbit, that action step will present itself. If you follow where you feel led and follow that, no matter how, the signs can be difficult to read, but you will ask yourself, which one is the green light, really, and which one is like yellow or lukewarm, and which one is definitely not there. And just line those opportunities up for yourself. You can do that within a fraction of a second. That's why we say anchoring with the breath and taking time out every day, because then that whole process of action, putting it into play, becomes easier. It actually becomes part of your natural pattern life, rhythm of life. So I think when we think of action steps and how to take them, and when challenges or contrast arises, that we are able to stop and look and really gauge using our inner compass to make good choices that are in the flow, that go with that flow. And that's a good analogy there, is following that white rabbit, because sometimes we look at our signs and we feel we have no choice. But when in reality we do. We have life flowing with us at every second. Every second.
And this is
Yes.
when to ask your angels, because every single person has a guardian. And this is when I'm confused, I need clarity. Please show me in a way I understand the path I need to take. And
Yes.
but don't wait for Amazon to deliver it. It's a question. It's going to come in peculiar ways, as signs do, and you've just got to be open and receptive, and just pay attention to what is around you, and then you'll have that aha moment. I get it. But if you're so busy, too busy, and you're not in those moments of receiving, that knowledge is going to pass you by. And you're going to say, well, how come you didn't tell me? No, you were not ready to receive.
Yes. Hurry, rush, fear, worry, and these kind of contracted states. If you're in a contracted state, you're not going to be in a position to make that choice, that action, or to follow that. That's not the state of grace or light that you want to be in. And we're literally talking about just getting yourself still and really solidly aligned, like upright. And that's what I do when I connect with guides and when I connect with other people's guides. If I'm here and there and darting across and this and that, or there's contraction in any way, then I know I'm not there, that's not the proper connector. It's kind of like a springboard.
Yeah.
So finding your center first and then going from there, I think that's really where it's at. And we do it. We learn these signs. We learn how to connect. We're learning it in this very moment. We're learning every day. So for everyone listening in, I applaud everyone who listens to these shows and listens again and again. This is the food, the nourishment that we need to continue the vibratory rate of the planet and your own soul's evolution.
Yes. And people say to me, does it make a difference? I say, yes, I can already feel the scale shifting. I can already feel, but this is happening in that world. And I said, yes, that's all part of the shift. but that conscious awakening, which is this beautiful current that's been flowed, through our waters, through our air, through the wind, through the trees, through our vibrational energy, it's already shifting, and that pendulum is already beginning to get heavy on this one side of love. And the more we nurture it, the more we embrace it, the more we step into it, the more we're going to make it happen. Now, yes, our next show is definitely going to be the ascension of dying. Most certainly. Plus, we've got some roundtables coming up with you as well, because, as I said, you're a repeat offender on here, and we're always very happy to have you and Othella's wisdom right here. And so I can't wait for the next one. And I think the ascension of dying most certainly is a great pick, and I'd love to hear Othella's opinion on it as well, because obviously she's got a different perspective. So that'll be a good one. We'll do that one soon, coming up maybe the end of September or early October. But in the meantime, my darling, would you please tell everybody how they can get hold of you, your retreats, other things that you're offering right now?
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah, and in so much gratitude. I offer my... it's a physical vessel here. I offer myself in service of light and Othella, and I do so in the most humble way. I'm very humbled. I have been led to a world tour with Othella, and you can, by the way, find Othella and meet her, get to know her, read her materials, which are all free, on Othella.org. That's ATHELLA.org, O-R-G. And yes, we have retreats now. I'm in Latin America now, so anyone who is thinking of vacationing, coming down to Cancun or Playa del Carmen, or even Merida, we are doing events, live events, retreats, and of course private face-to-face sessions there. So if you're interested in meeting Othella in person, you can do all of that. And yes, visit our website. There are... more than anything, it's a portal for light, really. Yeah. If you really,
literally,
if you want to go, if you want to go in there and feel good for a while, stay for a while, listen to Othella's voice. There's energy within that is much like what we were talking about earlier about music, the sound of dolphins. She's even written a little book about the dolphins and who they really are and where they come from. And I invite you to journey, and as you do, to find that foundation, find that which ignites the joy and which you feel in your inner compass, you feel aligned, you feel balance and peace. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about. So I invite you with total humility. I'm very grateful to everyone who's listening. Thank you for journeying with us today. Thank you for being so willing to do this most beautiful inner work that we're all doing. We're all in it together.
And you don't need to understand it with your head. You just have to feel it with your heart.
Truly. Yes. That's why we have the heart center that's being called forward in these times, is to let go of the intellectual self for a while.
Yeah.
And Othella does a great job of that too. A lot of her meditations, they're designed for that, to get us out of our thinking head for a while and into a higher perspective, a higher realm, and the higher vibration to sustain you as you walk. So thank you, Sarah, so much. It's been beautiful, beautiful time with you. I'm so appreciative.
It always is. I always love having the two of you on. And again, we've got many more shows to come, and so you are regular here, and delighted to have you, because it's always such wonderful wisdom and such warmth and such love. Whether people have listened to every word or whether they've just felt the show, it's something that is truly beautiful and very, very prevalent to our times. So thank you so much, Christina and Othella, for being back with us.
Many blessings to all of you, and thank you, Sarah. I do look forward to our upcoming shows, and to everyone listening, may you be filled with this life and light that we have all around us, that is never ending and always, always in the highest light and love for our highest evolution. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
No words to say beyond that. I wish everybody love and light and awakening. And until next time, folks, bye for now.